Hello. So there is a lot going on at the moment, a lot of things I want to talk about. Um, in this video, I'm going to be talking mainly about the issues around the Grenfell Tower disaster, but if I may, there's another piece of news that has broken tonight, which is significant, and that is that Helmut Kohl, the former Chancellor of Germany, has passed away at the age of 87. If it wasn't for the disaster in North Kensington, which is rightly getting the headlines, that would be major news. Helmut Kohl was a towering figure of the late 20th century, along with figures such as Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, Mikhail Gorbachev, Deng Xiaoping. He was one of the towering political figures of that period of dramatic change in the late 80s. He was Chancellor of Germany for 16 years and is best remembered in history as the man who unified Germany in 1990. Of course, like any great figure, there's going to be debates over his precise role, his legacy. Um, I know several American presidents have called him the greatest European of the late 20th century, and certainly his place in history was significant. So that's Helmut Kohl has passed away at 87. Um, Regarding the situation with Grenfell Tower, it's turning very ugly very fast. The initial shock and sadness and community spirit is definitely getting into anger now. Obviously, I'm an outsider. I don't live in London, and it would be wrong of me to judge the emotions that people are feeling anyway, because I'm not there. And clearly, the information that I know is based on media reports. What is clear though is that there's very palpable anger out there. Earlier today, for example, protesters tried to storm the council offices of Kensington and Chelsea Council. Very angry scenes. One guy was remonstrating with Channel 4's Jon Snow, accusing the media of not turning up on time. I don't want to judge anyone's emotions because I haven't lost anyone, I haven't lost anything. It would be wrong for me to do that. But I have noticed that some people have been pushing conspiracy theories, and I think that is very, very reckless in the current environment. There was one woman who was interviewed. She said herself she didn't know anyone in the block, but she was pushing a conspiracy theory on the Victoria Derbyshire show, or in one of Victoria Derbyshire's interviews, that this was somehow revenge for when Victoria Derbyshire pushed on that. What exactly did she mean? She was coming out with something about, because of the recent Islamist attacks at Westminster Bridge and London Bridge, it was somehow an arson attack. I think that sort of claim is a very, very inflammatory thing to say, and that young woman needs to be very careful not to be subouting that sort of stuff out. She says that she's got evidence, but I felt the interviews online, I felt her attitude was insulting to the firefighters who were risking their lives to save her and others. Um, and she wasn't someone who'd lost a relative, from what I understand. So I've not much sympathy with the reckless way she was going about that. If someone had lost relatives, then emotions can definitely dictate how they see something. But I also was watching an interview with Lily Allen, who grew up in that part of West London, but has obviously had a very different life since then. Again, she was being very reckless. She was claiming that there was some sort of media conspiracy to downplay the death toll. Well, this is ridiculous. The way it works is that journalists can only report the information that they have, and if they're told by the fire service that the official toll was 17, that's what they have to go with. And every single media outlet, regardless whether they were left wing or right wing, they were all saying the same thing. It is officially 17, but it will almost certainly rise. Um, and I have to say that that's the only thing a journalist can do. I think it's unfair to criticise them on that point. Lily Allen's a singer. She doesn't know anything about journalism. She doesn't understand that they have to work with the information they have. So frankly, shame on her for stirring the fan, trying to fan an already very tense situation. Um, I understand the anger of people who have lost everything. I can't imagine the hell those people are going through, but people who are coming in and shit stirring, I think that is disgraceful because this is an already very tense situation. I think I think this is going to be as controversial as Hillsborough. I really fear that's going to be the case. Um, I think it is going to be a very, very high death toll, and unfortunately, the nature of this disaster is such that it's going to take a long time for forensics to even identify people. I saw one very harrowing interview, a man who was a Syrian refugee. He'd come to Britain to get a better life, after seeing presumably horrifying things in a terrible war zone, coming to Britain for a better life, and then going through this hell. I mean, some people in this world really do suffer, and I really felt sorry for the guy. His older brother had died, and like many people, he took that phone call, and it was difficult to watch that interview. Um, in terms of responsibility, a lot of fingers are pointing at a lot of people, and that's understandable because when a big disaster happens, it's human nature that people want someone to blame. I think definitely there will be a lot emerging that things could have been done differently, things could have been done faster. Certainly, this issue about cladding seems to be a big problem. There was more of a priority put on the cladding than, for example, a sprinkler system. But I really think what this shows is that we cannot underestimate the importance of health and safety. Um, I also want to, I'm just reading the eye here. What they've said is that in the 1990s, 1996, what was happening was councils were shifting responsibility away to non-governmental organisations. In this case, it was the Kensington and Chelsea Tenant Management Organisation, and they outsourced to various bodies that would look after maintenance and so on. So that privatisation may be a factor. I don't know. I'm not going to make conjecture about when I don't know all the details. Um, Theresa May got a lot of heat today when she visited victims in hospital. I know tensions are running high, but people are saying she's a card. I think that's a little unfair because I think she's in a position where she won't win either way. If she turned up hours after this disaster, people would say it's just a PR stunt. Um, but then she does turn up, and people are saying she's a card. So either way, she's going to be criticised. Now, I'm not saying there shouldn't be any blame on the government, but I think it's a little unfair to call her a card. I do think that's unfair because I think that, being there, she probably was advised by people that she would have been getting in the way of the emergency services trying to do the job. I think it's difficult for politicians because if they turn up, people accuse them of opportunism, and if they don't turn up, people accuse them of not caring. She met the emergency services. I think under the circumstances, she. Um, I'm not gonna say she's blamed this because Theresa May's been in government for 7 years, and I do believe Tory cuts have a hell of a lot to answer for. Now, I am not saying that's what's caused this disaster. I'm not saying that, but things are going to emerge, and I think there will be a lot of questions to ask. Same thing happened with Sadiq Khan. He got heckled, and again, I'm not judging people because people are suffering here and they're angry, and that's human emotions. Um, but I would implore people if you don't know the facts, don't spin conspiracy theories. Don't say things like this the whole truth isn't being told, and this and that and so on. I've seen things online, for example, the Zionists done it, and a lot of other bile online. Um, this looks to me like a horrible accident, and it certainly looks like possibly criminal negligence in terms of um, the maintenance in the building and the safety errors that were there. For example, fire alarms not working, the lack of a sprinkler system. But I implore people. I don't want to patronize people, especially if I would never say to people who lost everything, I would not say anything to them. But to other people who are looking in on this, be responsible. Don't, shit stir. Don't throw around conspiracy theories which have no evidence at all. So this young woman that was talking about it's revenge, that's utter nonsense. I'm sorry, but it is. And that is the sort of thing that is going to make an already tense situation even more tense. It helps nobody. It doesn't help the victims, and I really think that is not responsible. I will praise Victoria Derbyshire. I think she's been behaving very professionally in the way she's been conducting interviews, and she's been comforting victims. And it's in a situation like this, journalists also have to be very sensitive and very careful about how they report things. All in all, it's a horrible situation, and my fear is this is going to be as bitter and as complex as Hillsborough, and I yeah, it's an awful situation. But I would implore people, please, 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 if you don't know the facts, don't throw things out there. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to just reflect on the situation. I'm not blaming anyone, and I won't blame anyone because I just don't know the facts. But clearly, there's going to have to be a full public inquiry. Every single aspect is going to have to be looked at. And I would suggest that it is absolutely urgent that every single tower block in Britain tonight, now, is reviewed for safety, especially those that were built in the 70s. I was just walking through Sunderland earlier. I went to an event in Seaburn, which is on the north side of the River Wear, if you're familiar with this city. And there's some much smaller tower blocks than that of North Kensington, but nevertheless tower blocks. And I imagine everyone in Britain living in a tower block is going to be feeling a little bit uneasy at the moment. So I think it is urgent that landlords, property developers, whoever is responsible for these things, make an absolute urgent review of their properties, because you just can't gamble with something like health and safety when we see disasters like this. Okay, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts.